how things have gone for Chris Bryant the last couple of years, just from talking to him, you almost have to make sure his head is in the right place, that he hasn't been beaten down.
Yeah, I don't worry about KB's head. I don't. I think that the thing that I know about KB is he has a lot of pride. We talk about the pride of the professional player, especially the player that gets here. KB's filled with that, and he's a guy that I don't have to worry about much, right? Because he's a pro with great talent, and he's built the right way. So, I don't worry about his head getting in the way.
Yeah,
Hang on, what's his red there? And that's been the thing that is frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating for all players. I think with getting hit, broken finger, back spasm.
I wonder if signing during spring training kind of put him.
That. I mean, the first year, that might have been a little different for him, right? But I think he also knows now where he is chronologically, age-wise. That your body changes, and some workout regimens have to change. I think he understands. He's learning that part of it, right? About the importance of the off season. I think this off season, for him was a good one as far as the strength and conditioning aspect. So I think he's in, a great spot, mentally and physically than he was in the prior 2 years.
That's one of KB. You've got Montero, who's you hope he continues to develop. A lot of young guys. I mean, in a way, are guys trying to position for some of his at bats here, trying to compete for them, or
for KB's at bats? No, KB. We hope KB gets 500 to 600 at bats.
Yeah, and
those are it. KB's a lifetime 280 hitter with a 380 on base. I mean, he's an offensive player. I mean, he's how many All-Stars? 3?
4.
Yeah, that's an All-Star player. So no, I mean the other guys are battling for their own at bats. That's where those guys have to. All the guys who have touched the big leagues for a couple hundred at bats. Those are the guys that have to solidify themselves. I mean, KB sort of did it his first year when he Rookie of the Year. Then the next year he was the most valuable player in the National League and a World Series MVP or a World Series champion. That's where those guys want to aspire to be that type of player.
Of those 600 at-bats, how many would you say would come in right field?
312.
312 in right field?
And then 200 in, Patrick, it depends.
Well, games,
it depends on the construction of the team.
Sure.
And how the team is doing.
But you feel comfortable going around?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It depends on it depends on the other guys, really, where he plays. I think I can say that, and I've told him such, right? His versatility enables us to have a better team based on the younger guys who, or any player that we might acquire, or anybody who's on our team, what position they play. Does that make sense? If there's, I mean, off the record, or hey, let's say Montero goes off, and Montero becomes a guy. Montero's not going to play right field. Bryant will play right, and Montero or Tolia or Goodman, or if Bouchard goes off and we can't get Bouchard out of the lineup, Bouchard will play right, KB will play first, Chuck will DH. That's how it works with KB. He can do either. Some of these guys, I mean, Tolia, we talked about his versatility too, so being able to do both. So last year when KB was down, when he was on the injured list, Tolia came up and we had Montero. He played some first. But then we moved Tolia outfield because we wanted him and Montero both in the lineup. So to get them both in the lineup, that's how that happened. So it's the It's the versatility that makes this happen. And what impacts the versatility is the performance.
Buddy, just a quick one from you
Before we go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mac, just obviously, he's established himself as
Yeah.
a guy in your lineup.
Mac's a solid major league player.
What do you look for? Does it feel like he's one of the leaders in there
Yeah.
among the guys?
Yeah. Well, sort of broken up into, you have, KB and Charlie, I think, as far as on the position player side, as far as the service time. Diaz, a little bit, Stallings now, as guys with, service time. And then there's that, sort of Mac and Rodgers
Mhm.
are in that, that next group of, they're not young players anymore for me. And then you got, for me, the lesser service, and then pretty much the rest of the guys. On the pitching side, Kyle, Herman, Sensatella, Bardo, Kinley. Kinley not so much service time, but age, chronological age, right, as a professional player. So you have those different sort of categories of age and service time that, to your point, as one of the guys in the clubhouse that, provide, different things.
Obviously, he's trying to put together that full big year. When he went in the off season, was it?
Who's this?
Mac.
Oh, Mac.
When he went in off season, was it like you need to work on this, that, or other thing, or was it that he's been around, he understands, he's heard.
Yeah, he's been around. He knows what he needs to do. I think with Mac, there's just, every year's different. Every year potentially can be a statistically, different year than the previous year. And that's what, players strive for. I think you can look to Mac and, there's a track record now that I think there's, this is what Mac is going to give you. And then you can look at, players who have banner years or, all-star type years or, batting title, home run title, RBI. And those are the years that sort of stick out for certain players. And I think that's what, Mac's capable of one of those, real big years. But, not to, Mac doesn't need to put any added pressure. He just needs to be Mac, and we'll see how this year plays out statistically. But he's capable of that. But you can't you play, and you make adjustments to your game that you start incorporating in the off season. You come to spring training, with some things that you want to do better, and you sort of set your mind to certain goals and objectives and expectations, and then you play, and then at the end of the year we talk about it. We talk about it, and we talk about it every day as we go through it. But the cumulative statistical numbers that accumulate during the course of the year, sort of tell the story, and the at the end of the year tells the whole story.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
One for me is just Sterling Thompson, his defensive flexibility. How much is that going to expedite the process?
Well, it could expedite it, but he's got to be functional and proficient at somewhere or multiple spots, whatever Sterling lets us know through performance. But it is an advantage for him that he's moved around the diamond. Now it's up to him to show us he can play everywhere and play, a position or two solid average or a little bit above or adequate enough if he hits enough to, warrant, continued promotion. But I think he's going to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I think.
More contact.
A couple questions about Cal Quantrill.
Yes.
First off, the split finger pitch that he's
Right.
been working on. Where do you see that in his in his arsenal right now. He said it's still a developing pitch, but
Right.
he thinks it can be a real good
Yeah.
weapon for him.
I think it's proven if you have, not everybody can throw it, right? It's sort of unique to every pitcher, and it's a very hard pitch to throw based on a number of things, finger length, your hand. I think to really get the true benefits of that grip, I mean your hand, and you got to be able to sort of handle the just the physical part of it, right? And creating the proper spin that will enable it to, have action down in the hitting area. And he seems to be a guy that, has those capabilities to throw that pitch. And I've, watched it here, over, a couple of his bullpens and a live batting practice yesterday. And I think it's got real potential to be a good pitch. Think about Cal, you hear me talk about pitchers, what is their best stuff? I'm still trying to figure him out as far, talking to him what his best stuff is. But I think I like his fastball. He can manipulate the spin on, a couple different breaking ball shapes. And if this pitch comes in as a change-up type action pitch for him, it's he's got good stuff. I mean, he's got a good arm. So I'm excited for him. But as far as to your initial question about the split, I think it can be a real pitch.
He had a rocky year last year because of the shoulder.
Right.
At the end, September, he put up some nice
Right.
numbers and starts. What did you know about him before he joined the Rockies? Were you aware of what he did?
Well,
in Cleveland?
when he got drafted by the Padres, you notice number one picks, right? And he was on the radar, not only for his talent, but his pedigree. His dad was a major league pitcher, and you hear about players. So, good college program at Stanford. So I knew of him, right? Just like I know of a lot of players, because I follow the game, like all of us. And then, in division, in spring training, saw him pitch. You could see why he was a number one pick. And then when he went to Cleveland, things came together. He matured, had a big year in 22, 15 wins, 15-5, good internal numbers. And then when we acquired him, I made my phone calls to Cleveland people and a few Padre people, and they all said in and around the same thing. Good head, competitor, poised, confident. All the things you look for in a good pitcher, and that's proven out here, right, through our conversations. But I like the fact that he's excited to be here. You've talked to him, right? He likes where he is. He's excited to be part of this group. But he's going to be a good addition. I sense that, like we all say, managers, general managers, coaches, if he takes the ball, goes to the post, it's going to be good for us and good for him.
Awesome.
Hey, buddy, with Rodgers, we've seen parts of really good seasons for him.
Right.
A couple slumps, but really hot streaks. What do you feel he needs to do to kind of smooth that out and really take
Well,
the next step?
I think, well, first of all, it'd be nice for him to get off to a good start. I think that's part of it. I think so many hitters, ride the wave of a momentum and a hot streak or a good good couple of weeks of at bats where, the hits fall and you're getting on base. I think, Brendan's capable of that over a long season. Not that it's imperative that, all players get off to a good start, but it would be nice for him, right? Because there's been a couple seasons or a couple times when he's come back, that hasn't happened. So a lot of times you really can't dictate that because every player who doesn't want to get off to a good start. So, but that would be, big for him. The health component for him is such a key factor. When his body is feeling good, his swing, plays in the big leagues. It's short, it's compact to the ball. There's not a lot of moving parts. There's strength to his swing. He's got a good foundation. He's got, strength in the lower half. There's a lot of things that add up to a good major league swing that should enable him to be consistent. And a lot of it, how he feels, how his body is. So that's for him, I think the physical part is, important.
When you look at, I guess I'm curious where you think Chris Bryant's head's at, and I know obviously the last couple of years here have not been maybe what
Right.
he hoped and what you guys hoped, but why do you kind of think that's been the case, and where do you feel like?
Well, there's so many factors that go into, how a player's doing. We can talk at length, the psychology of it, and really only Chris really knows, right? But from his conversations with me, he put a lot of pressure on himself early. The first year, big contract, new team, signed late, came into camp late. Tweaked his back, early in the season, never quite got on track. And there's, the pressure that players put on themselves is real, right? I mean, there's an expectation level that, they all have, and that can be compounded by, contracts, new team, outside, perceived expectation, all that stuff. I can't speak for him, but I think that was been a part of all this the last couple of years. And, the injury bug has got him. The plantar fasciitis last year, the broken finger. I mean, these are things that happen, and he's never quite, put it all together. But this year, new year, I think he had a really good offseason, strength and training wise. There seems to be joy now, right? I mean, pure joy. I think he's past the expectation stuff. I think he's over the pressure of that he maybe put on himself for the contract and coming to a new team. I think he just wants to play, and I think the initial the perspective that he had the first couple of years, I think he's all over that. I think he just wants to be a baseball player.
Have you noticed anything mechanical? Or what's his swing?
Yeah. The swing's fine, and and we saw flashes of it over the last couple of years. He's a 280 lifetime hitter with a 380 on base. OPS career over 800. So I mean, he's a good player, and he just wants to play. He wants to stay on the field, contribute. We're going to play him at first. Going to play him in right. We'll DH him. I think he wants to. I think he truly wants to. To be part. Of that leadership team that we have with a number of our veteran players, both on the mound and position player wise, to. Just be a huge contributor. But that starts with being healthy and being on the field.
Hey, buddy, I know the organization is really excited about Amador's future. When he debuts, perhaps next season, whatever it is.
Right.
Have you had enough interaction with him or set your eyes on him enough yet? I know it's early.
It's early.
To get any sort of feel?
Yeah, I mean, you always have a feel for the player when the first time you see him, but there's, and that's, whether that's tilted a little bit by what you see statistically, probably, right? Because first of all, you look at the stats and you see the low strikeout total. So he's putting the bat on the ball in the minor leagues. So that's you're curious about that and what that looks like.
Vegemite.
Is that your wake up call? 9 o'clock?
I'm trying to put it on silent.
Huh?
Good job.
Oh.
Folks, that was Ryan Spielborg's, by the way. That was his 9 o'clock wake up call.
There he is.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, little.
Oh, Amador. Yeah. And you watch him, and you can see what, the people in player development, have seen in him. You see the actions, and you see the strength of the body. You see the swing from both sides, and then you're always looking at this, what the stats have told you. You watch his actions in the field. You talk to the coaches. Talk to Shave. Talk to the hitting coaches who interact with him. Early in the morning. See him. I mean, I'm looking at everybody. I'm just not bearing down on Amador, but as each day goes on in camp, today's we're going to watch him play. We're going to watch him play 4 or 5 innings, and we'll watch him play again tomorrow. and probably the day after that. He's going to play a lot. So, which is good for him. He was banged up last year too, right? He had the hamstring early in the year, had the hamate, late in the year. So, but when player development, talks about players certain ways, it gets your attention.
With also with Yanquiel Fernandez, he's one of those guys where you see him, it catches your eye. There's a lot of
Right.
power. You've seen it from Wesley on the bat, the arm. What are you expecting from him? What have you heard that gives you your opinion?
Just maturity. We're hoping to see just growth from him, and the at bats that he takes in spring training. How he moves around the clubhouse, his actions, his conversations with players. Just the natural maturity in guys growing up. The body looks good. He looks a little leaner. I think there's been an awareness to, strength and conditioning that's starting to take effect for a guy in his early 20s. So he's in a good spot. Last year in Double-A, there were moments of, brilliance, right? Whether with the arm or with the bat. Statistically, maybe not as good as he had hoped. But a year older, and here in big league camp, has a way of turning up the dial for guys, which is great. So we're going to watch him. He'll play today, probably play again tomorrow, and the day after that, we're going to see these young guys.
Yeah.
We're going to see Veen, we're going to see Beck, we're going to see Amador, we're going to see Carreras. We're going to, Montgomery. We're going to see these cats.
How do you evaluate, guys who are in a Rule 5 situation, and obviously it's a unique pressure probably for those types of players,
Yeah.
but also, you guys having to decide, learning curve, I guess. How,
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's always, it can be tricky, right? But, the player, usually lets us know if that, was a real solid, decision in the wintertime. And I've been, with the Angels and the Padres and the Rockies when we have Rule 5 guys. And, you keep your eye on them closely because you know what's at stake. And I can't speak for the player, but, being an ex-player, I can only imagine the, sort of the pressure, or it can be a little bit of both, right? You really want to impress, so you stay in the big leagues. But there's also a sense that, just be yourself, and if you show what, the scouts saw, you'll probably be on the team because, a team wanted you. So we'll see how it plays out with Molina, but, so far so good. And he's going to pitch tomorrow, and then he's going to pitch again in 4 or 5 days, and we're just going to keep watching him, right? But he's shown well so far, but it can be a little tricky. But I mean, there have been some Rule 5 selections in the past that I've been involved with that you sort of knew right away that this is not going to work, and there's others that it looks like, hey, this is gonna work, and we're gonna keep this fellow.
Buddy, in honor of Jenny Kavanaugh, can I ask, is it true that you talk to your players?
It is true. I try to talk to him as often as I talk to him daily, if you can imagine that. Yeah.
Before my next question, in honor of Jenny Cavanaugh, who's starting on opening day?
Yeah. First of all, we got to let the player know first, and we haven't done that yet. And that'll probably be a few weeks before we let that player know,
All right.
or the guys in the rotation.
With Nolan.
Is this the last one?
This is my last one.
This is the last one.
Good.
Okay.
I feel like Columbo. One more question. Nolan Jones, I've talked to him. He seemed to come out of last year, even at the end when he turned hot, knowing he had more things to work on. With you, what's next with him, and how much do you feel that he walked out of that season not just, hey, I did well, I got a Rolex, but
Yeah.
I've got.
Well, no, he's committed, on the defensive side to really work on, some of the deficiencies that we saw last year, right? Some of the routes, the breaks. He's still, he's third baseman by trade, right? And he played a lot of third base in the minors. The Indians converted him. Then he comes to a new team. I think defensively to clean things up, I mean, that's a priority for him. I think offensively, players are always, looking to add to, their numbers. And he had good numbers last year, but, he can't, try too hard to, just, be a monster. He was a monster last year, right? He was great. But, continue to do the little things and simplify the approach. He does a good job of, controlling the strike zone very well, but, he might tell you, hey, maybe I want to be a little bit more aggressive in certain situations, whether it's early in the count or certain counts. And there's a couple things mechanically that, just subtle, real small things that he's working on with the dating coaches with. But he's doing fine.
How unusual is it for a guy?
Is this your last one?
Yeah, well, this is a follow-up to the
That was the
last
last one.
one. Now, this is, how unusual is the way that he came around on some of those inside fastballs that he was getting early in the count, they were getting him out on, or he wasn't swinging. And at the end of the year, he crushed a few.
Yeah,
That's-
that's adjustments, right? Knowing what, teams are trying to do to you. I mean, you play enough games in the big leagues and you should be able to see what teams are, how they're trying to pitch you. And there's an adjustment when, in his case, teams just pounding them in. I mean, you got to get to the point where you got to realize, hey, I'm taking a shot here on fastballs in, and I'm going to get the head out, and I'm going to pull the ball. And there's times when if they're pounding you in, you look for it in, you take it if it's a ball, and if it's there to hit, you rip it.
Yes.
Okay,
Good.
great.
buddy.
Thanks, guys.